simple chanting.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Well, actually, I just became insanely greedy when I experienced, because I haven't been in Alachua very much, and only a couple times, and I never got to hear this Kirtan of Badahari's, and this Kirtan that we had here was so nice because it was just Hare Krishna over and over and over and over and over and over for a couple hours, and it reminded me so much of being with Srila Prabhupada, because various people in the history of ISKCON have been wonderful kirtaniyas and kirtan leaders and have inspired countless people. And when I heard his kirtan, I just felt so strongly Srila Prabhupada come to the kirtan and be present. And so many times those of us who are disciples of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami, we just hanker so much for his presence in the presence. The memory is always there in the past, it's in the heart and the mind, but what's really incredible is when Srila Prabhupada just comes to where we are right now. And I felt that very strongly with this wonderful kirtan, so wanted to share it with more of you, and although I haven't gotten to know all of you, or hardly any of you, I really appreciate all of your presence here in Sharanagati, in Alachua. It's a very special place on the planet. There's no concentration of devotees in numbers like there are here. So there's just immense potency here. And I thank you all for your transcendental company. Hare Krishna. So Bada led this melody that evidently was quite popular this year in Mayapur with some of the evening kirtans. And I guess everybody knows it, I just didn't know it. So I wondered if we could just take a dip in that for an hour or so. Everybody's willing.
Do you want to tell that little story about Madeira and the Mridanga Srila Prabhupada?
Okay, well, I don't know, she'll probably be terribly embarrassed. I said, my dear god sister Madeira and I were somehow put together for Srila Prabhupada's servants. Her husband was president of Delhi Temple for some time, and my husband was president of Vrindavan Temple. And our lives crossed, as sometimes you find your lives come together for some months or years, and then you separate from each other. And I haven't had the chance to be in Kirtan with Madeira except once, a couple of years ago, in the temple once. But there was one Kirtan that I've always remembered very strongly, and I tell the story to a lot of devotees. It was in a place called Anandiketan in New Delhi. And I was on some service trip from Vrindavan with my husband. And came in the afternoon. It was time for an evening program. Srila Prabhupada was in station then. And I think there were a few sannyasis visiting TKG and Brahmananda, Sayananda, Karnamuni. Who else? I don't know. Two more maybe. And for some reason Srila Prabhupada asked me to lead the evening kirtan. Madeira was sitting down with a drum. And she had a chutter over her shoulders, and she just had her head down, kind of looking at the ground. And so I began leading kirtan, and Madeira always played a really good drum. She was a solid drummer. And sometimes she was an extraordinary drummer. But that night, for some reason, she went past being a good drummer, an extraordinary drummer. or even a Bengali drummer. She was a drummer like from the heavenly planets that just dropped into Kirtan from some past age. I know it's really embarrassing. And she started doing things with the drum that was not only really complex rhythms and counter rhythms, but with such expression that I opened my eyes, because I usually keep my eyes closed during Kirtan. And lo and behold, I look over at Srila Prabhupada, and his eyes are riveted, just riveted on Madeira. And you know how a cat stalks a bird, and the cat becomes completely focused and not moving? So Srila Prabhupada's hands he's playing his kartals, and his face is very relaxed, but his eyes were completely focused on Madeira. And meanwhile, I'm watching Srila Prabhupada, and she's down there just in her own world with her eyes closed. And I watched Srila Prabhupada off and on for the whole Kirtan, relishing, as he was relishing one of his disciples. Play the drum, a simple thing like play the drum. And then, more or less, the rest of the devotees were in some kind of semi-ecstasy trance thing, dancing all over the room. And finally, Srila Prabhupada closed his eyes and started moving his head back and forth, and he went into this Vaikuntha place, and this whole room was just transferred into spiritual, into Goloka Vrindavan, by the power of Kirtan. So I'm always remembering that wonderful event with Madeira, and the Kirtan, the holy name, is just so powerful. It's the be-all and everything. So I'm really happy that Madeira agreed to come here. Also, sometimes we used to go to Vrindavan during full moons, and today's a full moon night. We used to sit on the roof at Radha Damodar and just have these ecstatic kirtans as the dusk came to Sevakunj, and in the evening, and in the night, and the unfoldment of Sevakunj atmosphere. And they're some of the sweetest memories to my whole life. Anyway, so I was asked to share that little tidbit with you all. If you don't know her, certainly try. She's that wonderful beauty. Haribo.
Are you going to chant a little bit?
No, you go and chant after.
Are you recording? If you're recording, do you want just one drum? Or?
No. Whatever you say.
Kosher. Skylight.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll kind of warm up before we get
Okay.
into that.